I'm gonna lay it on you. I'm tired of clubs bullying players. Now we're parachuting right into this. No funny asides to start things off. Am I getting arrested or can you shut up? Do you hear that? You know the weirdest thing about New York is because the streets are so narrow, uh, that they'll just be hammering their sirens, but they'll get like stuck right outside your window because they can't get through traffic because there's nowhere for the cars to go. I'm not even kidding. I just like went to my window and there were two ambulances just stuck in traffic directly outside my window. So that's what that was. Hope everybody's okay. But maybe the cop cars in front of them, they're on the way to arrest the board of Bayern Munich. Now, I think that would be a little unfair. That would be a little unjust. There've been a lot of stories recently where I feel like players have actually been treated pretty unfairly. There is a difference, right, between the way that I would say like the NFL and the NBA work and like the sports that I kind of grew up around and in football. And that difference is that in the NFL and the NBA and baseball, whatever, but there is a players union, right? And there is a players union, I realize, for football and everything, but that players union does not have a collective bargaining power, right? And so it is not going to the Premier League and bargaining various rights. I'm sure that players union is bargaining some rights with somebody, right? At least it is there to attempt to enforce that players get paid and on time. And I definitely hear about the fact that like the footballers union or whatever getting very mad at leagues and clubs that are not able to pay wages on time and making those clubs kind of pariahs. But it doesn't have the ability to collectively bargain kind of everything. You know, that's the reason that everything in the NFL and NBA that feels so formalized, right? Because there's a free agency, there's a window where you can negotiate contracts, there's a window where you can do this, and it's agreed upon by both parties. Now, that is much more abstract when it comes to the world of football. Like these soccer players, right? They have to deal with basically kind of a wild west of when you can negotiate stuff and when you're able to do this, when you're able to do that, what's fair and what's not. In the most recent example is Alphonso Davies. And I'm taking this particular angle on it because I feel like Alphonso Davies is like his agent, unusual, right? Because agents are normally this, like, they're typically seen as kind of the shit stirrers and scum, has made some very good points. And for that, we will turn to an article on Bavarian Football Works, which is a website I've never quite found myself on before. And his agent, Nick Husa. So Alphonso Davies playing for Bayern Munich, and Nick Husa comes out, and he drops, in my opinion, a bar. It's unfair that Alphonso Davies is now being attacked. We were close to an agreement over a year ago. Then the entire club management was replaced. We didn't hear anything for 7 months, although I tried during this time to contact the club myself. Yikes. Now we are being given an ultimatum and are supposed to react within 2 weeks because the club is under pressure and took a long time to reposition itself in the management. That's not fair. He continues. It's very important to the contract at Alphonso Davies. He continues with me reading it correctly. It's a very important contract in Alphonso's career, and we're supposed to make the decision without knowing who the coach will be next season or what the team looks like. That's why we think it's unfair to react to the ultimatum. Right? And that is true. All of those points are entirely fair. I believe that this makes complete sense. Why would you agree to a contract when you don't know who you would be working for? Why would you agree to a contract when you don't know the direction that the team is going to be headed in? And it sounds like this ultimatum has kind of come flying out of nowhere. At least that's the way this agent is making it out to be, that this contract offer was heaved upon them after what was a period of inactivity because of turnover in the management side of the club. All of that is before a gigantic but. They're trying to make a play here. I'm convinced, right? You didn't see that coming, right? Because I'm over here standing up for players' rights, and I think all of those points are entirely fair. You should at least be able to wait to see who the new manager is and decide if you want to work with them and whatever. All of the what was that? The first 5 minutes or so of this video was before a gigantic but. And as Ned Stark once said in Game of Thrones, everything before the word but is shit. Although I don't believe that because I did just spend 5 minutes talking about it. I think they're trying to make a play here. This is something we've seen players do, from Kylian Mbappe, right, to, I'm trying to think of better examples. Who's that? Oh, who's the Serbian striker? What's his name? Oh, it's Dusan Vlahovic. It's this phenomenon of players finding different reasons not to do the transfer in the transfer window so that they can then leave for free, right? That is the phenomena that is occurring, right? Because if you can leave for free, you get the money that would have gone into the transfer, basically. Not all of it, but a good portion of it. Like, you're going to get a higher wage because you found a way to be able to leave for free. And so agents all over the place have been tap dancing, trying to find different ways to be able to dance their way out of a contract for free. Now, Alphonso Davies wants to go to Real Madrid. That's been the noise for a long time. I'm doing a terrible job of keeping you caught up on the lore early in these videos because I'm so excited to get into what I actually want to talk about. But yes, Alphonso Davies, Bayern Munich's stud left back, has wanted to go to Real Madrid for a little while because Real Madrid Florentino Perez is basically a snake charmer or something. Like, I don't know. He drugs people's drinks. He hypnotizes them and then just says the keyword like Afghanistan, Bananistan, and then all of a sudden they just like start drooling and just want to go play for Real Madrid. Like, that's just what he does. He just points at the badge and goes, ha ha, Papa Perez has you. And then he just builds the greatest super team in history. He's building a Galacticos of dudes under 25, which is terrifying. And Alphonso Davies apparently is the latest greatest to be allured by that. And the reason this summer is going to be so important is because if Alphonso Davies is not going to be allowed to run his contract down, they're going to have to sell him this summer because his contract goes through the end of 2025, which means by the time you hit January 1st, he can negotiate end of contract deals with other teams. Real Madrid. And this is something I honestly learned from playing Football Manager. If you've got a guy that's going to be leaving the next summer and you don't plan on being able to keep him, you need to sell him the summer before. You do not want to enter the last year of a contract. And Bayern Munich knows this, but Bayern Munich also messed up because it sounds like they've given Alphonso Davies enough high ground to stand on, right? Alphonso Davies and his agent enough high ground to stand on, where they're able to sit there and say, well, how can we possibly accept this ultimatum when all of these other things are going on? We don't know who the coach is going to be. You didn't talk to us for 7 months, this and that, right? And they have the ability to step back and provide an actually reasonable answer to make it look like they're being bullied by the club. Because they are, in some sense, being bullied by the club here, but I think there is an underlying nefarious desire from Alphonso Davies and his agent to end up on Real Madrid at the end of next season. And if you do that, then you just get, the agent gets more money, Alphonso Davies gets more money, and Bayern Munich gets a lot less money because Alphonso Davies is worth a lot of money on the open market. But the market isn't open. He doesn't want to go everywhere. He wants to go to Real Madrid. And that is where this gets incredibly complicated. Because if you're Bayern Munich, I don't know if there's a right answer, right? Even though you've not misplayed your cards up to this point, PSG has learned the hard way that it's very difficult to coerce Real Madrid to pay a lot of money for a player they know they're going to eventually be able to get anyways. Papa Perez plays the long game, right? And if you accept an offer from PSG or not Brighton, but like maybe Villa or Arsenal or whatever for the Premier, Alphonso Davies is probably not going to go unless that club makes a very persuasive offer to Alphonso Davies that he should go there. So if there is no actual competitive bidding market for Alphonso Davies, what incentive does Real Madrid have to actually offer the money for Alphonso Davies when they know they just have to wait 1 year and they'll get him for free? Because that's where Alphonso Davies seems, according to reports, that's where he seems to want to end up anyways. That's where apparently everybody wants to end up. And obviously, Alphonso Davies is looking at a season where, Bayern might not actually be able to win a trophy for the first time since, Caesar ruled the earth. And that might be part of the decision-making process as well. The final bit here is that Bayern Munich being disheveled, that's new. Bayern Munich normally has its shit together. And the fact that they're a little out of sorts here is great evidence at how rattled they are by the fact that Bayer Leverkusen is actually going to win the league this year, barring a massive me-sized bottle, right? In that, the Bayern Munich is a little rattled right now. And cracks are going to start to show in a money-making, player-developing machine that has been running roughshod over Germany for a decade and most of Europe for a lot of that time. And so I am fascinated to see what kind of meltdown is in store because Alphonso Davies is going to be made out to be a giant villain if he does actually hold out until the end of next season. And it's just going to be a very un-Bayern situation. I'm not used to this happening there. This is the sort of thing that happens at like Manchester United or It's happened at Barcelona a lot recently because the financial, this doesn't, but PSG, AC Milan, Inter, it does not happen at Bayern Munich, right? At least this has not happened for a long time. It's happening now that Alphonso Davies has been gifted some high ground to stand on, some pretty compelling high ground to stand on. If you read that statement by the agent, clearly somebody that's very good at their job, right? Able to build that narrative up to a point where you go, yeah, that makes sense. I understand why you're not going to reply to that. But it's also important to understand that everybody's playing a nefarious game. Conspiracies. There's a lot of money involved. And at the heart of it are often dudes that don't quite exactly know what they want to do. See Kylian Mbappe, right? He seems to be unwilling to confirm that he's going to Real Madrid this summer still for some reason. Like, there's just a lot of weird things involved in this all the time. But it's pretty clear in this Alphonso Davies situation, we are just starting to scratch the surface, and his agent going nuclear in March is a pretty good sign that we are in for a lively summer when it comes to Alphonso Davies, to say the least. Go Leverkusen, by the way. Thank you for returning parity to one of the world's great leagues. And hopefully I'm rooting for the unbeaten season from Leverkusen. I think that would be sick.